If you're over 65 and your Social Security check has landed in the same account for years, here's a number worth sitting with the wrong assumption about your direct deposit could leave you with $0 on payment day. And no paper check coming to save you. Not because you did anything wrong. Because one of 3 rule changes to how Social Security pays you quietly went into effect, and most retirees haven't checked whether it applies to them. So let's get into exactly what changed, sourced directly from Social Security's own guidance and the Treasury Department's public statements. An executive order signed in March of 2025 set September 30th of that year as the date federal benefit payments moved to fully electronic delivery. Direct deposit changes that used to take up to 30 days now process in as little as 1 business day. And since April of 2025, phone only identity verification for new claims and direct deposit changes has been replaced by online verification through login.gov or id.me or an in-person visit. 3 separate rule changes. 3 separate ways your payment can be affected. And here's the part that catches people off guard. None of these 3 require you to have done anything wrong. Most retirees hear about a change like this and think, I already have direct deposit set up, so none of this applies to me. That assumption is exactly what costs people a full payment cycle. Here's why. Social Security's own data shows more than 99% of beneficiaries were already on electronic payment before this change even started. So this was never really about whether you have direct deposit. It's about whether the account number sitting on file still exists, and whether you can actually get into your online account on the one day something goes wrong. There's one clarification that gets left out of a lot of coverage on this topic, and it matters more than most of the headlines suggest. Paper checks have not been eliminated for everyone. A waiver still exists for beneficiaries who genuinely cannot use electronic payment, people with no bank access and no reasonable path to a debit card option. If that describes you or someone you help manage finances for, that waiver is the first thing worth looking into. Not a fallback you assume no longer exists, and not something you should have to fight for. It's a documented option, and it exists precisely because the agency knows not everyone can shift to electronic payments overnight. Let me make this real with someone ill called Diane. She's 71 in Ohio, and she's been on direct deposit for 14 years. Her monthly benefit is $1,840. 2 years ago, her local credit union merged into a larger regional bank. Somewhere in that merger, her account number changed, but she never updated it with Social Security because nothing about her day-to-day banking felt any different. She still used the same debit card, the same mobile app, the same branch down the street. Then, on payment day, her $1,840 had nowhere to land. Here's what Diane's situation actually reveals about the math behind this rule change. Under the old 30-day processing window, a call to Social Security that same week would have meant a fix well before her next payment cycle. There was room for a mistake to sit for a while without becoming a crisis. Under the new one, business day window, the fix itself is fast, almost instant by comparison, but only once Diane can actually prove she's Diane, and that's exactly where the 3rd rule comes in. And exactly where the story stops being about bank mergers and starts being about identity verification. So let's walk through the 3 situations retirees actually find themselves in. Because the outcome is very different depending on which one you're in, and knowing which one applies to you now before anything goes wrong is the entire point of this video. The first situation is the best case. Your account information is current and you already have online access set up. You log into your My Social Security account through login.gov. Confirm your routing and account number and correct anything that's wrong. Processing time as fast as 1 business day. That's it. That option is available to anyone who takes 10 minutes to set up a login.gov or i.me credential now, before there's ever an emergency. 10 minutes today can save you weeks later, and that trade is almost never made until it's too late. The second situation is more common than people expect, and it's the one most retirees don't realize they're in until they need it. Your account information is current, but you've never set up login.gov or id.me, so you call Social Security. But since April of 2025, most direct deposit changes and new benefit claims can't be completed by phone alone anymore. You'll either need to finish identity verification online or schedule an in-person office visit. And here's the number that actually stings. Social Security's own figures show only about 44% of in-person appointments get scheduled within 28 days. That's the real cost of waiting, not the rule itself, the queue standing behind it. A missed payment because of a queue feels exactly the same as a missed payment because of fraud, even though nothing wrong happened at all. The third situation is the one the waiver exists for. If you truly cannot use electronic banking or online identity verification, you can request that waiver through the Treasury and either continue receiving a paper check or move to a prepaid debit card option that doesn't require a traditional bank account at all. This path still exists. It has not been quietly removed, no matter what some of the more alarming headlines might suggest. Notice the pattern running through all three of these situations. This rule change didn't make Social Security less safe, and it didn't make the system more hostile toward retirees. It made speed and access two completely different things. Fast if you're already set up, slow if you're not. And the only variable you actually control is which category you fall into on the day it matters. A few more things worth knowing before you go check your own account if you're applying specifically for disability benefits. Supplemental income or Medicare and not a retirement, spousal or survivor claim, you're actually exempt from the in-person identity verification rule, and you can complete that process by phone just as before. That distinction rarely makes it into the broader coverage of this topic, and it matters if disability or Medicare is your specific situation. Also, if your bank offers something called automated enrollment, your bank can send your updated direct deposit information straight to Social Security electronically. No phone call, no office visit required, and no 30-day wait either. It's worth a 2-minute call to your bank just to ask whether they support it, because not every bank does, and the ones that do rarely advertise it. And one warning that matters more now than it did before this change went into effect. If you ever get a call, a text, or an email claiming to be Social Security asking you to verify your account number to avoid a suspended payment, that is not how the agency operates. They verify through your online account or in writing sent to the address already on file. They will never call and ask you to hand over your banking details under a time deadline. And they will never threaten an immediate suspension over the phone. If a call ever follows that pattern, the safest move is simply to hang up and call the agency back using a number you already have, not one the caller gave you. It's worth remembering that scams built around this exact rule change tend to follow a predictable shape someone claims to be calling from the agency. Invents an urgent problem with your account, applies pressure with a short deadline, and then asks for the one piece of information that unlocks your payment. Once you recognize that shape, it becomes far easier to spot in the moment rather than after the fact. And for anyone without a traditional bank account who's worried this whole conversation doesn't apply to them, it's worth repeating that the Direct Express prepaid debit card remains a fully valid option under every one of these three rules. Benefits load onto it automatically each month. It works like any other debit card for purchases and ATM withdrawals, and setting it up doesn't require passing through login.gov or ID.me at all. It exists specifically for people this transition was never meant to leave behind. It also helps to know your actual payment date, because that single piece of information is what turns a normal delay into a moment of panic. Social Security payments generally arrive on the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month, depending on your birth date, while supplemental security income typically arrives on the first, if you don't know which Wednesday is yours. That's worth writing down today, because a payment that's simply following its normal schedule can look, at a glance, exactly like a payment that failed to process. Knowing your real date in advance takes that uncertainty off the table before it ever has a chance to become stressful. It's also worth thinking about who else in your life should know these three rules. Not just you. If you have a spouse, an adult child, or a friend who helps manage your bills, it's worth a short conversation about which bank your payment goes to and an agreement that if either of you ever gets a call claiming to be Social Security, will you talk to each other before doing anything at all? That one habit closes off the most common version of this scam before it ever gets the chance to start, because it removes the isolation and urgency the scam depends on. So here are 3 things worth doing this week in order. First, log into SSA.gov and confirm the account number listed there is the one you actually use today, especially if you've switched banks or been through a merger in the last couple of years. This alone would have saved Diane an entire missed payment cycle. Second, if you don't already have a login.gov or ID.me credential, set one up now while nothing is wrong, so it's ready the day you actually need it in a hurry. Waiting until there's a problem is the single most common mistake retirees make with this rule. Third, if a payment ever looks late, give it a few business days before assuming the worst, and if you do need to call, use the number printed on an official letter you already have, or SSA.gov itself. Never a number given to you by an unexpected caller, and never a number pulled from a random search result. If this cleared up exactly where you stand with these changes. Subscribe, because breakdowns like this go up regularly, and the next one will walk through exactly how to request that paper check waiver we talked about earlier. If you want to know what the current wait time looks like at your regional office, drop your state in the comments, and it'll tell you what people in your area are actually experiencing right now. This is general education based on public Social Security and Treasury guidance, not individualized legal or financial advice. Confirm your own account status directly with Social Security before making any changes, and if your situation involves a merger, an estate, or a change in who manages your benefits, that's exactly the kind of detail worth confirming directly with the agency rather than assuming from a video like this one.